so at one point I was just like, you know what, Christina, you just got to do it.
Yeah.
You know, like it's the time. The time is now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't start now, like you never will. So that's honestly where it started. So just getting out of my own head and releasing perfection. That's been like what's holding me back from a lot of creativity for me.
Welcome to Mental Shampoo with your host, Kimar Cain. Join me as we explore life's big questions, the unique perspectives of intriguing creators and artists. Get ready to unravel the art of living right here on Mental Shampoo. What's happening, man? It's Kimar Cain coming to you all the way live. Your favorite country cousin, your favorite Mississippian, and your best friend. Thank y'all for tapping in with us so far right here. Season 3 of Mental Shampoo. Y'all know how we do this thing, man. I've been having so much fun just talking to, all the people around the city, letting people know, just how great this city is from the great people that's within this city. And so we have another great individual on today. I like to call her a legend, man. Good friend of mine. This is the wonderful, the amazing Christina McField. Christina, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm glad to be here.
Glad to be here. Good deal, man. Happy to have you. Listen, you have been a great curator and artist in the city of Jackson over the past several years. And you've been able to expand in ways that somebody probably didn't necessarily see possible.
Yeah.
I would consider you a trendsetter for real. Would you say the same?
Yeah, I think I'm leaning more into that.
Come a little bit closer to the mic.
I said I think I'm leaning more into that now.
Good deal.
Yeah.
What made you get to that point? Like, okay, I accept this. I'm going to embrace this. What was it?
I don't know. I'm not actually sure like what place, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just that I think I just got tired of sitting with these ideas for a long time and just like, okay, wishing that some of these things were happening close by me because I'm always traveling. I'm always seeing other things in other cities.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, well, let me just step out on faith because these ideas and things I've been wanting to do, I had written down in my journals for years.
For sure.
And, honestly, it's like, I would say it's just about stepping out of perfection.
Mm-hmm.
I had this like whole idea of like needing it to be a certain way. You know how we can imagine things and expect it to turn out a certain way.
Want it to be perfect.
Want it to be perfect. I needed it to have, X amount of money, sponsorships to do X, Y, and Z.
Facts.
And I didn't want to like start unless I had those things already. And so at one point I was just like, you know what, Christina, you just got to do it.
Yeah.
It's the time. The time is now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't start now, like you never will. So that's honestly where it started. So just getting out of my own head and releasing perfection. That's been like what's holding me back from a lot of creativity for me. So
you know what? Somebody told me a time before, like, once you get your mind off of money, you can really like break the limits as to what you're able to do and what you will do.
Mm-hmm.
Like money and the lack of will stop a person in their tracks. I know for me, it stopped me for sure.
Yeah.
Like you said, you got to have X amount of dollars to do this, that, and the third. But if you already out there doing what you're doing, people will freely give you money.
Yeah.
People have money to give for real.
Yep.
And you've been able to experience some of that as well with some of the ideas that you've had.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, some of those ideas that you've had in your journal. You know what I mean? What ones have you executed and accomplished? And what are some that you're comfortable talking about? What are some that you haven't quite done yet?
Well, most of them I feel like I haven't even quite done, honestly.
Word.
So, I feel like this is honestly just the beginning. I feel like you guys know me as, being able to curate and bring people together through community, through a certain topic or things of that nature. But I feel like this is really the beginning of so much more. And so, being away for a while has given me the chance to like really sit with those things and kind of like recalibrate a little bit to really focus on like what exactly do I want to do? Because I can have 1,000 thoughts going through my head at one time. And it's just like, it's hard to really focus on one thing.
Facts.
So that's been like the hardest thing. And I remember being in undergraduate school and for my thesis class, we my professor, he gave us a book called The One Thing. And I remember just kind of being frustrated because a lot of my professors will always tell me you need to focus on one thing.
Yep.
And I'm like, no, but I have so many different talents. I could do this. I never wanted to feel boxed in, And so now years later, I see what they mean. Of course, like we're multifaceted, people.
Yeah.
But I feel like in order for you to master a craft, like you do have to set aside some time to really focus on certain things because I do a lot. Like I curate, I'm a photographer, I'm a sculptor. Like there's a lot of things that I love to do.
Yeah.
And I'm a very curious person. So I can, I may be focused on one thing, but then, that other shiny thing that may be glistening over there, I'm like, ooh, what's that? And I'm like, okay, wait, Christina, like you gotta focus and remember, what you're trying to do here. So, of course, right before I left for grad school, the Art of Wellness, I feel like, me and Allison co-produced that together. So that was like one of my favorite,
Amazing event.
Yeah, when she, approached me about it, I had already, I don't even think I told her that, but I had already written down, something similar to that. So then, it's like I knew all the people that I wanted to bring together to make it happen. So that event for me was like one of the best because it's just something that I've had in my head for years, and just for her to come together and say like she wanted to be about mental health and also something that I'm very, intrigued about and something that I also loved, love being in this creative field and realizing that's what art does for me is, pretty much my therapy as well. So I would say that event so far. But I mean, I'm working on other things, but I'm just, just really taking it slow, like not being on this like rat race to feel like I gotta like do anything to impress someone else or do anything because like, trying to impress my own ego or things like that. So it's really just
that's spicy. I ain't never heard that. Impress your own ego. Kind of expound on that a little bit more.
Well, I think, a lot of us like it's something that we have to work with from time to time because I feel like our ego can also get in the way of things. And it's something that I'm just learning to like, okay, like meditate on. Like, Christina, like, what are you really doing this for? Are you really doing this, because you really are trying to help people? Or are you really doing this because like, okay, you want your name in the limelight or whatever? And it's just like, no, it's never been about that. But sometimes like your ego does want to be stroked. Everybody wants to, have their name or be appreciated or talked about and things like that. And so I'm like, okay, that's not how I want to operate, in the world going forward. So I'm just like, now I'm like, I feel like I'm more at peace with how things roll out. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, okay, because the world I feel like right now is appreciating art more than ever. I feel like right now.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm like, okay, I feel like there's a rush, in some sense to like, oh, I need to be doing this because people will appreciate it more because I was the first to do blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, that doesn't even,
don't matter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And these are things that I talk to myself about all the time. Just like, stop, Christina. Just stop, because the ego, I feel like it's for good, but you also have to just be able to like know how to control it.
Yeah.
It's like a defense mechanism, your ego is there to help, but also like you got to be able to control it.
Yeah.
So, so it's all been a learning lesson, for myself, but I'm very glad to get to this place. So now I can just rest more and just like be in tune and be more aligned with, the things that I need to do. And so, a lot of things that are like happening now, going back to like wanting to do everything, just like now I can really, okay, like that person's doing this now, like, oh, great. Cause like me, I'm like wanting to do everything. I'm wanting to help everyone, and that's just impossible. So now I'm just like, okay, now I can really focus on what my true gift is and bring that forth. So.
Your true gift. What would you say some of your true gifts are?
Bringing people together like in a curated, fun space. I feel like that's one of my true gifts. To make people feel welcomed in a space. Yeah. That's one of them at least.
And before we get too deep, because you already shared some great light, what are a few things that you want people to know about Christina? Who is Christina?
Christina is a healer. Christina is she's a light, and she is a giver. And yeah, when you're around her, you feel love. Like it's like I feel like, you know, I feel like I have an energy where people always want to be around me. So I feel like that's a gift that I have to recognize as well. So yeah, she's a person of yeah, I don't know why light just keeps coming up in my head, but yeah, she's just a person of light and just of I would say just like a great consciousness to be able to like help others see
sure.
their own light in themselves.
Okay.
So yeah.
And I get it. I appreciate the hesitation too, because that's not always an easy
No, it's not.
question to answer. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like, ain't nobody like really just ask me like, who am I? Like, you know, or why I do what I do in some instances. Some people, when it comes to the why aspect, excuse me, some people might give a generic answer, but that's kind of like to kind of shun people away.
Yeah.
But that who question is really the question. Like, who are you, blank, blank, blank? So I appreciate the hesitation and that answer. Listen, when it comes to your art and being the artist that you are, being the light and healer that you are, and being the gatherer of people, how did all this come about? You know, what is the story?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What makes people want to get around your aura and feel this love that you have to give?
Yeah. Well, first, my parents. They're such lovable people. Yeah, my mom for sure. Like, she's just, I mean, I've watched her as a little child, like, give her last to someone, you know.
Literally.
Even with, literally with family members, like, and I'll be like, you know, because sometimes I'm just like, even outside of family or other people, and I'm like, Mom, that person is just using you or, you know, things of that nature. And I'm like, you don't see what they're doing? And she's just like, you know, blinded by that. She just will. And so I'm like, okay. After a while, I'm like, I want you to realize, you know, you can't just give everything, you know. But both of my parents, just very great people, and always wanted the best for me. So I would just say it starts there, just being from a very loving family. But second, I would say, so I'm not sure if most people know, but I grew up in a hair salon. But my mom, she opened a hair salon when I was little in 1998, and she named it Christina's Hair Design.
Okay.
So, and my dad, he cut hair, he did hair, so he had a craft. So I saw him being able to use his gift, you know, when he was younger. And he was more of the social butterfly, I guess you would say, social person. My mom was just kind of behind the scenes, you know, putting things together. But so yeah, we owned that. We owned this hair salon in the community off of Wilkins Drive. And I didn't get the chance to go to art school or go to art camps, you know, things of that nature. So my upbringing was in that hair salon. So I got to see, you know, of course, you know, people hang out at the barbershop, Black folks for sure, you know. It's a third space for us.
Yeah.
You know, if we're not at the house or if we're not at work, we're going to go to the hair salon, the barbershop, just kick it. And so that's what I would do. I would just sit there and listen to people, chop it up with each other. And come through selling bootleg stuff or like
the CDs, DVDs.
Our whole DVD like collection was nothing but bootleg.
That is funny.
Yes,
we had a guy in my hometown. We called him the CD man.
Yeah, yep. So I saw all of that when I was little, selling makeup, anything of that nature. My mom started selling purses in there, and even hustling. That's all I know is hustling and like grinding. So even on Saturday mornings, my mom would wake up and go get bagels or like croissants or different things, and
Okay.
make coffee for people who would come in on Saturdays,
Nice.
and just make it a welcoming space, for people to be. So, and then my dad, he always forced me every time I come in, like, make sure you go speak to everyone. Like, I couldn't just go in and sit down and do what I was going to do.
Interesting.
He would force
That's
me.
a lost art within itself.
Yes. So I'm like, go ahead.
How do you think that's helped you with like,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I mean? Because people be scared to like go up and talk to people, you know?
Yeah.
And although I feel like I can talk to any and everybody, there's still a sense of like nervousness in some ways. Like, dang, I don't know this person, they don't know me, but listen, we in the same room, but like your father pretty much forced you to say, hey, go speak to everybody in this room.
Yes.
You know what I mean? How has that helped you like socially, personally, professionally, all the things?
Yeah. Oh, it's helped me tremendously.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know at that age, like what that would help me with, when I got older. But yeah, it's just like I'm able to, be in other spaces and just go up to people. I'm like, I don't know, just ask questions, or like we can always bond off of, something in some capacity.
There you
so just, I don't know, you got a nice shirt on. Oh, you got a nice, you just go up to someone and compliment them. And then it starts a conversation. It's just, you look at people and admire things about them and just start asking questions. So yeah, just go from there. And so, but that helped me tremendously to not be afraid to go up to people, that I didn't know. And so, and it helped me build relationships, because that's what community is. It's about building relationships. So I'm like, if you don't have that, then it's kind of hard. Yeah, it's kind of hard to survive and navigate that world, because you need to be able to talk to people. That's what this is, So the salon helped me a lot in so many ways. So I mean, I had about 10 years. We had it for about 10 years. So between the ages of 4 and 14, that's like a huge,
That's a big part of your coming of age. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So that's powerful though. What's some of the like best advice you've gotten from both of your parents? What's something that you keep with you from your father, aside from speaking to everybody?
Yeah.
And then what's something that you keep, in your back pocket from your mom?
Yeah. The immediate thing that I can think about with my dad is like treating people with kindness, or kill people with kindness. He used to say that all the time when I was little. It's kill people with kindness. And so yeah, just always treating people like you want to be treated, And so even with that, I'm even having to learn how to navigate that, because sometimes like everybody's not kind, and just because I'm treating them with kindness, they treat me, or I'm just like, so you have to also like build some type of like strong, type of what am I trying to say, armor, for yourself too, because I've feel like I've been knocked down. Like, how in the world could this person treat me this way? And I'm like approaching them with so much love and so much care, but just people just don't care, or they also may not know what that feels like.
So where does that piece come from for you? Like building that armor? Is that something that you had to kind of develop on your own, just seeing how the world is?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Being able to, as I got older, being away from my parents, leaving home and going to undergraduate school, and then after that, and then working, and just that's something that I always carry with me. But I'm like, I also have to I've always been this sweet, nice Christina, but sometimes that doesn't get me a lot of places.
Yeah.
So I'm like, sometimes it's something that I'm honestly still working on now, because that just doesn't always work. People see that as we can take advantage of her.
Yeah.
So I'm learning on how to navigate, that more, because I'm just used to people being from Mississippi, speaking to one another, and although everybody here may not be nice as well, but I'm just used to hospitality, at least, just like the bare minimum of just saying hello, how you doing, So that's been tough. It's been tough, and it's something I'm still dealing with, but it's I would just say it's something special. It's something special. So but yeah.
What about mom's advice?
Mom's advice?
Yep.
Um uh, so much. So much. I think she's just helped me um be my authentic self and always to remain honest. Um and so yeah, being authentic is your gift, and learning that that's your gift. I don't think I've always knew that, being younger. But now that I've gotten older, I'm like, oh, like it's not that I need to approach a certain situation a certain way, or thinking that I need to, I don't know, act or perform or be this certain
Put
person.
on a
So
facade.
yeah, put on this facade for someone to like me. And it's just
Yeah.
like, no, that's not gonna work. So yeah, my mom has just kind of coached me in that way of like just being your authentic self.
Is
So
that something that she told you, or just something that you saw her kind of flow and be on her own, like her being herself?
yeah, first just being herself first, but just and then also through just conversation. I don't think it was just like kind of like a teaching, like, Christina, you need to blah, blah, blah. Like she would, but I don't think first that was the way that it was brought to me. I think it was just how she showed up in the world. And because yeah, making sure that she operated in a certain way, because like, you don't want anything, karma or anything, to come back to you, things of that nature. So, because my mom, like, even to like the smallest thing, I'm trying to think now about something like, I'm just thinking, as far as like showing up to work on time or like being a minute late or whatever, she's like pressed, or like, I'm like, girl, or just, I'm really trying to think of a situation, but something that you would just think is just minor, like um, being at a restaurant and the waiter may not come back and give you your ticket for your food, and you may be like, oh, like, thank you, God. Like, I'm gonna walk out of here and I got a free meal. My mom's gonna walk up and find the lady or whoever and make sure she, pays for her meal, because that's what she's, because like that's what you're supposed to do. She doesn't want that on her conscience or things of that nature. She wants to make sure, I appreciate that. So
Yeah.
that's how I try to think about things too. So she's like, no, like I came here to, eat, and I'm supposed to walk out of here and pay for it. So things of that, teaching me those type of things, because she's like very conscious of how she moves and what she does. So I just really appreciate that, because she's not trying to slight no one or anything of that nature. So just being able to see or have her as an example, in my life has been very helpful. So I'm grateful.
Nice. So you talked quite a bit about undergrad and grad school. So let's tap into it.
Okay.
So undergrad happened where?
At Mississippi State.
And what did you major in?
Sculpture.
Why?
Well, in addition to the salon, my mom also had rental houses.
Okay.
So with the rental houses, I mean, I'm telling you, every weekend, like,
it was an adventure.
It was an adventure. It was an adventure, but I am so grateful for that, because all of that, like, it's built who I am now, and we can get into that later. But yeah, it's just every Saturday morning, or every weekend, because my mom had a full-time job besides all these other things that she was doing. So she's about hustling and trying to figure out how to make extra passive income for our family. And so she has several rental houses across Jackson. And we had a house where she's from. And so she had I want to say family friend. He was a handyman, basically. Could do anything, like electrical work, plumbing, everything. So we would get up early Saturday morning, drive to Philadelphia, Mississippi, and pick him up, pick my grandmother up, or whoever else was helping us. And I think, honestly, before we went, we would go to Home Depot or Lowe's. So I spent a lot of time in Home Depot, like wood shops, things of that nature.
Okay.
So yeah, so that taught me a lot, and just being around, his name is Mr. Chester, being around Mr. Chester with tools in his hand,
Mm-hmm.
watching him build something,
Mm-hmm.
I was just fascinated by that, and so I always had a paintbrush in my hand, a hammer or something, and my mom never, like, stopped me, like, "No, you too little, like, go over there and sit down." It was she let me help, she let me paint or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and so that just helped my creativity in so many ways, just being able to see and be a part of what was happening, and, so houses, my mom is, I would say she's a, creative herself.
Close for sure.
So,
Out of all of that, for sure.
oh yeah, yeah. So um, she's always talking about, um, well, we had antiques in our home, so we would just like have long talks about like the trim or like the delicacy of
The
like how
trimming?
the trimming of a table or like the footing of yes, we have
What the
talked
hell?
yes, yes,
That's down to
yes.
detail for sure.
Yes, those
Yeah.
are the talks that we had,
Mm-hmm.
when I was younger. And I think I didn't really have much to really talk about with her, but I would just sit and listen to her talk about all these things,
Mm-hmm.
And so she would share stories because we have antiques in our home. And so
Mm-hmm.
she would share like passed down stories of the
Okay. Now we
antiques.
cooking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I knew who used to own this table, or like my
Okay.
mom has a table in our house right now of a picture of her father standing on it with his mother, and so just to see like that history being passed down in our home,
Mm-hmm.
so going down to Philadelphia, working on the house, it just walking on the land, seeing old houses and being able to renovate them and bring them back to life was
Mm-hmm.
just fascinating to me as a young child. So going back to sculpture, like I knew art was always the
Yeah.
thing, but I didn't have classes or a mentor or someone teaching me, of how to be an artist or you could be an artist in the world. I was
Mm-hmm.
just, I don't know, so I was figuring it out. And I want to say right before my 10th grade year in high school, I took a human A&P class
Mm-hmm.
and I got like really obsessed with the body. I really was like, okay, well, maybe I should go and like be a nurse or something like that. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is what I'm gonna do. But of course, I still wanted to do art, but I was like, okay, now I need to figure out something that's gonna bring income home. So started, not going to the art or not choosing the art classes and doing the allied health classes. But then when it was time to graduate and go to graduate school, or not graduate school, but undergrad, I went back to art. I was like, this is what I want to do. So I chose architecture
Mm-hmm.
because of being in homes and on the weekends traveling with my mom or even going to open houses in homes. We would go to open houses and homes. We weren't even looking for a home, but we would just go because we were just fascinated with homes and spaces and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I learned that all the math you had to take for architecture and all that, I was like, okay, maybe I don't want to do this. I'm kind of obsessed with blueprints. I used to draw blueprints. I'm like, okay, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So after that, I just was just taking classes.
Mm-hmm.
And I came home. I did an internship for Mississippi Free Press.
Mm-hmm.
And I also did an internship at Disney World. I was just figuring it out. I was literally just doing stuff until
Yeah.
something stuck. And so when I came back to Mississippi State, it's like I was avoiding the sculpture classes. I was taking painting, drawing, like all of the, I guess, easy stuff per se, in my head at least.
Mm-hmm.
But never was introduced to sculpture or what that medium was or anything of that nature. And so I finally took a sculpture class and
Change your life.
it changed my life because art is subjective and
Yeah, for
like
sure.
I was doing the best I could in my classes, but I wasn't getting A's and B's. Like you would think art school, like, okay, like everybody's getting A's. Like, no, like you can
ain't like that.
you can fail.
Interesting.
You can fail totally, but
Is it because like fundamental things or like design itself? Like,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And just how you're showing up to the work, it's really just performing.
That is
honestly.
important. Showing up to the how you show up to the work. Yeah.
And so I took my first sculpture class and we had to remake like a food item, a grocery item, or something that you would eat. And so I chose a Hershey bar.
Okay.
And so I made it out of silicone and plaster. And I recently had to like find the picture of it.
Okay.
But everybody was like, oh my God, this is so great. Like, because we have critiques, like once you do a project in art class, you have to put it up and everybody sits there and critiques your work, which is like terrifying. So, that happened and people were just giving me all this praise for creating this Hershey bar because you couldn't buy the thing and like wrap it. You had to create everything from scratch, even the paper wrapping, everything. So that's what I did. Graphic design, like using all my skill sets to do this, to make this piece. And I got a lot of praise. I remember getting my first A that I can remember at least, in school. And I was like, okay, like maybe this is something. Like,
let's leverage this.
Maybe this is something. Yeah, maybe this is something. So, and it was the first time that I took a class where it was connected to the wood shop.
Okay.
And I remember being in that wood shop, and I was like, this just the smell of like the sawdust and just that space for me. I was like, this reminds me of when I was a child, like being in, how you go in Home Depot and it just smells like construction or the tools or whatever. Like that's how the wood shop. I was like, oh, so something.
This is familiar.
This is familiar. And so, I was like, sculpture. We're going to go with that. And so I'm literally, and that's life. It's a journey. I'm literally just figuring it out as I go. And so figured out what I need to do to declare that as, a concentration. And did it and got accepted and graduated with a sculpture degree. So,
nice. So I want to kind of dial back before we get into grad school. So going back to mom, like the detailing of a table, that's like, I've never heard that.
Yeah.
So it's like, is that where you learned like how to be passionate for something?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say so. Seeing my mom's passion for that, my mom's really big on history. So just seeing her talk about like the craftsmanship of a table or an earring or something like that, because certain things aren't made like they were back in the early 1900s.
It's a lot of fashion and whatever else.
Exactly. So just hearing the history behind why they made, I just inherited some porcelain fine china from some family members in Chicago.
Nice.
And I went to Google and I'm like, yo,
this is a
big deal. So I'm like learning that, they're two brothers from Japan. So it's just like a whole thing. And so once you start learning how people made things a long time ago, it's just, I don't know, me and my mom, so we just get fascinated about that, because that's why you buy art, because it's different, it's unique. This, set of tables came out in the 1930s and there were only 10, just like buying a car, like there was only 10 made. You want one of those, don't, like, you know what I'm saying? If you can, have enough money to buy that. So it's the same thing. Like, it's knowing who made it, the manufacturer company or whatever. It's just knowing, like the wood was, I don't know, like the tree that they cut down was in Africa. Yeah. And it was imported and shipped to the United States. Like, it's a whole story.
This shit deep.
It's deep.
So speaking of history and stories, right? How important is storytelling and just stories itself? Like, how important is it to pass those things down? Talking about a table from your grandfather and your great-grandmother, you know what I mean, to, a tree from Africa building a table, like these different stories.
Yeah.
Why is stories and storytelling important, especially in the world of art?
Yeah. I mean, you honestly don't have art if you don't have the story.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Spicy.
Yeah. Like, all right, at least in the contemporary world, that's what it is. It's like, people be like, okay, I don't get it. It's just really, honestly, it's the story behind it. And once you read the story, you be like, oh.
It makes sense.
Okay, it makes sense, or maybe you still don't get it. You know what I'm saying? But maybe you have to sit with it, for a while and then it clicks. Or, some people are just being supportive of the artist, or, there's a connection or a through line somewhere else, but normally the story is why people buy and collect art, So what's your question again? Because I want to make sure I answer it. Yeah.
No, that was it. Like,
Okay.
why is the story and storytelling so important?
Yeah.
Like, your mom able to pass down certain stories, you going through your life experiences, being able to develop a story of your own.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So things like that. And that's spicy what you just said. If there's no story, there's no art, or there's no art without the story. I like that. You have also become like a collector of sorts yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you really support, especially artists in Jackson. I've seen you buy local artists' work and just support the artists in the city. Why is Black art important? And why is Black art in Jackson important?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Black art is important because if we're not the ones making the work, buying the art, collecting it, supporting the artists, then none of that would exist. We need to be the patrons, we need to be able to support, the artists to be able to keep their professions going, because, there's something inside of all of us, but specifically artists who choose to go down that path. Like, they're bringing something that comes straight from source, straight from within.
Come on.
To be able to, like, help themselves heal, help themselves do so many different things. And I feel like that didn't click for me until a couple of years ago. Like, I was doing this because this is all I know, and this is what makes me whole and complete and happy. But I'm like, oh, like, this is what I have to do. And I'm like, artists make work to talk about their past or their family stories or whatever. So we have to be able to, like, collect that and pass it down. It's just, to me, it's about preservation, and so we won't be able to look back in the history books or things of that nature if these things aren't happening, if they're not being created. So it's super important.
Wow. You know what I want to see in Jackson, in the state of Mississippi? Hearing that, I would like to see somebody actually, I don't know if somebody's already doing this or not, but just kind of documenting, the artists here in the city and in the state, and just kind of jotting down nice bios or whatever the case, and actually putting it in book form. You know what I mean? To put in these schools, in the schools' libraries and things like that. Because a lot of times, too, an artist doesn't necessarily reach their peak until they are transitioned.
For sure.
You know what I mean? And it's like, why is that a thing? Why is it that this artist, this painting probably was $1,000 when they were alive, but then, you got somebody now that's beating their chest saying, oh, I collected this piece, it was 13 mil. The artist can't even, probably the family don't even see that bread.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying?
Even while they're alive still, too. Like, artists are not, and that's another thing that needs to happen within the art world. Like, once a piece has been sold to someone, they don't have royalties or anything after that. It goes to auction. They're not reaping that, even while they're still alive. But even, of course, when they've transitioned, there's not getting nothing.
So what's like a possible solution within that you can?
I've been thinking about that as well.
I'd be hating to see that for real. You know, this painting is worth so much money, and people like are really proud of owning this piece.
Yeah.
But the artists themselves don't have nothing pretty much to show for it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your art.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So, what is the story behind your art? And you just mentioned some, I assume, with your family.
Yeah.
But even going a little deeper, what is like the base? What is like the soul of your artwork? Why do you develop these pieces? You've had pieces in museums and throughout the state and abroad. You've been able to help curate on other artists' pieces as well. What is that for you? What is like your artist or your art's identity?
My art's identity? If I had to, like, put a name on it, in the contemporary world, is like Southern Gothic. Just documenting the rural South, Because I honestly don't see many people doing that now.
Yeah.
And I don't see many
You found your lane.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I was like, you have to stick to what you love. Because I remember years ago posting on Instagram, like me being in an abandoned house. And like people are like, what in the heck what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm just going after what fuels me.
What feels good.
What feels good. And being in abandoned spaces and, seeing vines crawling all over the buildings and things like that would just make me just feel, I would just get excited about things like that. And then, honestly, I guess it just reminded me of being in the country. Like, I spent a lot of time in the city, Jackson, and I spent a lot of time in Philadelphia. I'm grateful to have both of those perspectives. And so, seeing old buildings that my mom used to tell me about of her growing up going to these places, even my grandmother. And so some of the buildings that I've documented, it's from where my grandmother is from. And she grew up as a little girl going to these stores, I'm like, wow, like this is amazing because I'm like, and then also again, if we're not documenting that, if we're not creating the art, it's just gonna be demolished and gone. These are old stores that, people, even black owned spaces or whatever the case may be. It's just that I find some type of urgency in wanting to document them because they're beautiful, even if, they are abandoned and things of that nature. They still have some type of story to tell. And I feel like me just being in that space, documenting it, it's just like I'm connecting back to like my childhood. It's like I'm able to do so many things at one time. I'm connecting back to my childhood. I'm connecting to nature at the same time. And I'm also connecting to God. Like I feel very I feel very in tune when I'm in those spaces. It's really hard to explain, honestly. And I think when you are creating something, that's the way it feels. Like you are entering into the zone. Like I, reference the movie Soul, how he enters into the zone. Like that's how I feel. I feel like
Phenomenal
I'm entering.
movie, by the way.
Yes, it's my favorite movie. It's one of my favorite movies. And I reference that movie a lot. But that's how I feel. I'm entering into the zone and I'm like, I don't quite know, honestly, what I'm doing in the moment. Sometimes, like, I've documented photos or I've made art years ago. And sometimes, like, years later, I'm like, oh, that's why I did that. It's just for you to just get it out. Art is just for you to express and get it out. And that's only what I'm doing. I don't have a book that's guiding me to do all the things. I don't know. I'm just figuring it out. And so, the art is just, how I'm being able to connect back to, my happiness and things that made me happy when I was younger because I'm like, now I'm adult and it's just like, now we working and just doing, you know what I'm saying? Like adult life is just like,
it's ghetto.
Yeah. So I'm just like, art just makes me happy and it makes me connect back to those things. And, but also it's helping me share why these things are important. So it's not just, me expressing, but it's just like, dang, this is connected to a story. Like I'm able to, so now that's what I'm doing now. It's like, okay, I was just documenting these things for fun, but now I'm creating a book. I'm doing, talking to people about, like I was in the country with for my birthday actually last week. And my mom was talking to my aunt and she like, met some of the civil rights workers like right before incident happened. Like she saw them right before this is, tragic, of course, but right before they got murdered, just like things of that nature. Like if we don't preserve these stories, and she just remembered going to the church, the Mount Zion church that got burned down. And it's just like, okay, I'm like, I don't know. I'm just like, if I don't document this and have it for people like when I'm long gone, it's just something that I cherish and something that, I'm passionate about because my mom's passionate about. I mean, when I was little, she's watching the History Channel, and so I'm just like, oh my God, like, why are you always doing these things but didn't know? I'm like, dang, I'm turning into my mama. But, it's just, I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for it. So, if I'm glad that I have something that I can tune into
Mm-hmm.
and have a reason behind doing these things, and I'm glad that people are kind of awakening to the importance of it, now. And even if you didn't know before, people will see it later,
Mm.
So I'm just doing what God has, blessed me to do, and that's what I'm gonna do. So it's
Yeah.
it's an ongoing process,
So,
So right now that's where I'm at with it, taking photos and using found materials, assemblage work, going back to my sculpture work, um, to tell stories. But like I will always make art, and maybe next time you talk to me, it may be something different. I may be in a
mhm.
different space of what that means to me, but I feel like it will always be rooted in preserving and telling stories. So.
So that was great. Thank you for sharing that. I've heard you reference two things, and I can repeat them if needed. But two things that you referenced: being able to go back to your childhood,
Mhm.
one,
Mhm.
and then two, from out of your work that you have created. Um, what's maybe one or two of your favorite pieces, and why?
Um, One of my favorite pieces is called Childhood Memories. Childhood Memories. And what made it click for me was the house um, that used to be on my grandmother's land that no longer exists. My mom used to talk about her as a child going, playing in that house and, all these different things and the high ceilings and all of this. And I'm like, dang, I wish I could have seen this house or just
Mhm.
walked through it. I just feel like there's a part of like my family that just cuts off. I'm like, I just wish that I can connect back to these people that
Mhm.
are part of my heritage and my lineage. And so I was with some friends one day and seen this house. It's off of off of Gallatin Street,
Okay.
and it reminds me of that house that my mom talked about, and just old. It just gave me that feeling,
Mhm.
and yeah, I'm not sure if I named it Childhood Memories immediately, but like it it had that connection for me. So I'm like, oh, okay. So it's like I'm documenting things. Um yeah, because it makes me happy, but it's just like it's like a therapy for me as well, because I'm also figuring something out about myself that I didn't know, or
Mhm.
like I'm making a connection or something of that nature. So that's one of my favorite pieces. Um and I would say Bliss is another one of my favorite pieces, which was in the house or the grocery store that I spoke about earlier that
Mhm.
my grandmother grew up going to. That's one of my favorites. And I mean, right now I would say the sculpture piece that was in my show,
Mhm.
um, Abstract Memory of Time. But I'm really looking forward to making more sculpture work. I guess I'm connected to that one because that was my first one.
Mhm.
But I would say those pieces for me because of the connections behind them.
Nice. I forgot my first question.
The childhood.
Yes.
Okay.
Why is it important to you've referenced like going back and feeling like a child, or remembering your childhood? Why is it important to go back there?
Man. Ooh. Why is it important to go
Taking it
back
back.
there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that was before we got like indoctrinated by the world. Like we were
Yeah.
so innocent, and we were so just full of just imagination and like fun and laughter. And not to
Mhm.
say we're not doing that now, but it's just like it was just so we didn't care what others thought about us, or we didn't care how we showed up. We just put some short we want to go play outside. We want to be
Very
with our
impromptu.
friends. Yeah. So it's just that I'm like, dang, like I yeah, just being a child is just the best. Like between the first 7 years of your life, like you're connected to God. Like you can hear things. That's why children say the craziest things because they're more connected with God then. And then it's like after 7, then it's just like that's when the
Yeah.
programming starts to begin.
For sure.
So yeah, just being able to tap back into that for me. It just helps me not to lose myself, if that makes sense, So just to be reminded of those good times, with family, where there, maybe bad things were happening or whatever, but it's just like it was just so simple back then, or yeah, just how family felt, or family trips or things of that nature. So yeah, just being it's just priceless for me, and I just don't want to lose that. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Grad school.
Mm-hmm.
That's your latest
Yeah.
accomplishment.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
So, what was that experience like, and how would you differentiate between, doing sculpture in undergrad
Yeah.
to doing
art administration.
art administration in grad?
Yeah. I never thought that I would go to grad school, first off. And I remember finishing, because I feel like I didn't know what the heck I was doing in undergrad. I'm like, I would never go to get my master's. Like, I was done with school, didn't want to do that. Never thought I was like a school person anyway. Like, I would just want to do art. I just wanted to paint and just
Let me be.
That's just
Be
let me
free.
be. Yeah, that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But after undergrad, I started working for the Mississippi Museum of Art, and being in that space helped me develop like so many other areas that I never knew about. And so I was able to really it was pretty much like fertile ground to me as far as like the curating space. Like I already knew, I feel like intuitively how to do that, just being in like the salon and like having to navigate people and not necessarily programming, but just like, create a welcoming space for people, if that makes sense. So it's like that was already natural for me because I grew up in that type of space. But to be in an institution to learn like those practices and to be embedded in those practices really helped me like, oh, like there's a lot more deeper work, to learn. And so being able to curate for Museum After Hours and being the curatorial assistant with the exhibitions and exhibition design, like that took my whole understanding of the art world to a whole nother level. And so, I did so many different things there. And in order for me to be a curator, if I wanted to be, like, I would need a master's, or at least that's what the field wants you to have. They want you to have a master's. And so I was like, okay, I don't know what's next for me, but I'm just gonna apply, and just because by that time I got out of a permanent position. I was a membership director, and then I got the opportunity to they had a new position that was funded by the Andrew Mellon Foundation, which is like a big deal, and it's basically to it was a fellow, like to be a curatorial assistant, but you're a fellow. So I got out of my permanent. I remember like asking my parents, like, is this a good decision, to leave like a permanent, position. And then this position is only for a year. And of course, they supported me in whatever I chose to do. But went out on faith and did that. And so after that ended, because it was a temporary position, I'm like, okay, I have to figure out something because so that's what prompted me to apply for graduate school. So I applied to one school and got in. I was like, oh, okay. So first try,
Nice.
got in. And so, most people thought that I was going for my MFA to like continue pursuing either sculpture or painting or something like that. But I went for art administration because I was really interested in curating. I'm never going to stop creating art, making work, photography and sculpture. But I felt like I needed to have like the business, at least, if I'm going to get my master's, I just felt like pursuing that avenue for myself would be more, if I'm about to like come out of pocket or pay for this, I just felt like going into that for me at the time was more beneficial. So, and it taught me a lot because, you think that you're going to grad school to like learn, and yes, you do learn, but like
Yeah.
I figured out that I had all the tools even before I left. And so just being able to believe in myself more for what I do know and my experiences and things of that nature. So grad school really taught me like, Christina, believe in yourself, not that I wasn't before, but it's
Right.
just that
At another level with it.
yeah, it just really kind of showed me like, you think that you may not know certain things, but you really do. You really do like know a lot, And so I'm like, okay, it just gave me a lot more strength to, pursue what I want to do.
Couple things. I think it was great for you to actually, because a lot of people are scared to learn the business of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was great for you to do that. So you have your creative side, but then you also have this structure, format, business side of things.
Yeah.
You can play both sides.
Right. Exactly.
And then people are oftentimes like scared of their own knowledge too, myself included.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've definitely pulled back on things that I know because I have been in somewhat ways afraid of my own success.
Mm-hmm.
And I can openly admit that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm scared as shit. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I've been able to push myself to certain levels and I've been able to break barriers. I've been able to make my name great in many instances, but it's like I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's scary. And I am.
It is.
I'm currently fighting the battle of like, you good.
Yes.
You got it. You know this. You know this person and that person. You can create this. Like, get out there.
Yeah.
So that's where I am. But a lot of people are scared of their own knowledge.
Mm-hmm. That was me.
Yeah.
For sure. That was me for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So congrats to you, man.
Thanks.
So I know you were saying, like at the beginning of the grad program, you didn't necessarily know like what was next per se.
Right.
Do you know now?
No.
Still after figuring it out?
Yeah, but like yes, I know what I want to do.
You have an idea.
Yeah, I have an idea.
Gotcha.
I don't want to say no. I'm not just out here. No, I don't want to. No. Yes, I do.
For sure.
But like no, like I can't say like I have a job lined up for I'm about to go do X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. No, like I'm really still in that space of like kind of like the unknown before I even went to school. I'm still in the unknown, but it's like I'm in a better like mental space to be able to accept that because like I just know what's about to come next is like about to be like greater than because I'm like God has always like been by my side, every step of the way. So I'm just like I can only imagine what's next, and I'm like I don't want to work for someone. So that's why I'm like, I'm not even really worried.
Hello.
I don't want to work for someone.
Hello.
So, I mean, I've always created for myself anyway. So that's what I'm going to do. Like, It may be freelance. It may look a certain way for a while. And I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. I don't have to have this big, title or anything of that nature. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just grateful to, like, be able to wake up in the morning and sip my tea and decide like what are we gonna do today? Like that's where I'm at, and that's where I want to stay at. So honestly, that's what it is.
For sure.
So I'm gonna continue creating programs and things of that nature. But it's just me flowing more, and it's a really good space to be in. I'm honestly just flowing, and I love not knowing exactly what's next. Like that's the main question that people have asked me, what's next? And I'm like, you know what? I don't know. Do we ever know? No. No.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. So listen, you said a couple of words, flowing, and you've mentioned, you said flowing and uncertainty and unknown.
Yeah.
I think those are awesome, like beautiful spaces to be in.
Yeah.
That's that's faith, like for real, for real.
Yes,
That is like walk by faith, not by sight, for real.
for sure.
So kudos to you, man, because I'm sure that's not easy, but I'm sure it kind of puts your mind at ease too.
Yes, it does.
You know what I mean?
It does.
So that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Listen, I've had fun.
I have had fun too. This was great. This is really great.
Amazing story. I expect nothing but great things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The art of wellness. I kind of do want to kind of end on that note because before you left, you were able to, and I was blessed to be a part of that.
Yes.
So thank you for that opportunity.
As you were part.
That was definitely a good look for the city. You know what I mean? Recognizing art and mental wellness in the same vein.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Is more of that coming? You said more programs and things like.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Bet.
Definitely.
I look forward to that. Yeah, just keep being great, man. Keep free flowing and being in the unknown. You know, and I think that's something we can all take a page from that book.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Before we get out of here, this right here is your camera.
Yeah.
What I want you to do, talk to little Christina, because you refer to her quite a bit. And maybe even talk to the other little Christinas out there, and maybe a piece of advice, a word of encouragement, or whatever you want to flow into.
Okay.
Yep.
I would just say, take your time. I feel like I was on like a rat wheel race, like with myself. And I remember having a conversation with someone, and she's like, why do you always feel like you need to be busy? And I'm like, that's a great question. I feel like for me to feel productive, I like need to always be busy. Like I just need to be doing this, I need to be doing that. And like telling myself, oh, I'm doing this thing. And it's just like, none of that really matters. So I would just say, just take your time, because everything's going to be in the right timing for yourself. God's timing, whatever the case may be. I don't care if it's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, that's always going to be the right timing for when that whatever needs to happen. So speaking to myself and speaking to other people, just take your time with whatever you're working on, because it needs your patience, it needs your the stillness of your mind and rest. And yeah, I would just say that to anyone. Just take your time and close your eyes sometimes and just be still so you can listen and hear all that you need. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Nice. Talk about mental shampoo. That was great. Listen, man. Again, this was a phenomenal conversation. I had fun. Thank y'all for tapping into more of Mental Shampoo Season 3. So check us out. Let the people know, the same camera, Instagram, website.
Yeah.
Where can they connect with you?
Yeah. So people can connect with me at ChristinaMcField.com. My last name is McField. ChristinaMcField.com. You can also go to Instagram, Christina McField. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Christina McField, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all know who I am. Kimar Cain, coming to you all the way live. Your favorite country cousin, your favorite Mississippian, and your best friend. You're tapped in, wrapped in with Season 3, Uno, Dos, Tres of Mental Shampoo. Hopefully, these episodes have been able to help wash certain perspectives of your mental, you dig what I'm saying, and see life in a different view. All right, perspective. Life is all about perspective. And as we learned in this episode, life is about people. So get out there, gather, show love, be light, and go heal yourself. And that'll help heal somebody else. See y'all next time, man. Peace and blessings, love and respect.
Mental Shampoo is recorded and produced at KD Creative Arts Media Studio in Jackson, Mississippi. If you're interested in taking your video and audio quality to the next level, reach out to the people here at KD Creative Arts Media Studio. If you want to grow and monetize your podcast, this is the place to be. Visit kdcreativearts.com today.